In the last part of this what if, we had the main cast of the Z Warriors contend with Raditz, Tien even being there this time, as Tien here is much closer to the group given his dojo rivalry he has with Yamcha. In fact, at that reunion we have Tien and Yamcha discussing about when the next World Martial Arts Tournament is going to happen, which will take about just as long as it does in canon, since the ring was still blown up. Not by Piccolo, but by Tien this time. In part 4 I said they'd replaced it, but it was more like of a makeshift version of it just to see to the rest of the fights, like they were using markers to highlight the out of bounds area. But before we get into today's part, make sure to like and subscribe with bell notifications on to stay up to date with my what ifs. But when we left off, our heroes had begun their own training methods to overcome the next threat. That is the Saiyans Vegeta and Nappa, because if you watched the last part, you'd know they're still on their way to Earth. First thing I want to start off with is the question I left you all with in the last part, that being the gender and name of Yamcha and Launch's child. And I really like this comment by Chandler Kinney, Jiaozi, which follows Yamcha's naming scheme pretty well in my mind, since they're both named after a pretty similar food. And for the gender, a girl seemed to be the majority from what I personally read, so until I get some custom art, I guess I'll have to deal with this stand-in for now. We start with the Earthlings at the top of the lookout. Up here we have Hercule, Nam, Pamput, Tao, Yurin, Chopper, and actually even Videl. Hercule, seeing a pretty young warrior in Yurin, had him convinced to bring Videl along, since he's also convinced that by being his daughter, that she should have at least as much potential as he does. Though weirdly enough, Videl is present in this story well before canon, though Videl has to be tutored personally by Kami to catch Videl up to speed, as she's not quite on everyone else's level, at least not yet. But I will say, since there are more fighters training on the lookout, I would say their gains would be slightly higher than in canon. Also, considering the people on the lookout right now are actually on the level, if not stronger, than the canon people who train on the lookout. Though we'll see where they're at when we do the power levels. As for Jiaozi, she doesn't train on Kami's lookout, but trains nonetheless. But I would say that she still would have some training sessions on the lookout. But given the responsibilities of the Wolf School dojo, she keeps it open. This she does at the very least take after her father, given that she was also raised in a dojo. So it's not a stretch in a Dragonball universe that would lead to Jiaozi being a martial artist already. Though, Jiaozi is aware that Videl is training on Kami's lookout and passes that information on to Gohan, who is now starting to get bugged by being stuck inside by Chi-Chi, while his friend, and someone he's only heard of but knows is his age, is training for a major threat. And as the son of the world's strongest person, Gohan is frustrated that he can't do anything, and eventually breaks out of the house and tries to find Jiaozi. Though, being as young as he is, gets lost, only to be found by none other than Piccolo, who is training in isolation for this threat. And this will end up leading to Piccolo testing Gohan's potential by doing basically the same thing he does in canon, and throwing him at a mountain. And this leads to Piccolo being the first person to witness Gohan's rage powers, as Gohan eviscerates the mountain before he collides with it, which leads to Gohan being trained by Piccolo whilst everyone is unaware. And I guess leaves a very panicked Chi-Chi since she just comes back to our house with no Gohan. However, I think in this what if, the Gohan and Piccolo relationship at first would be slightly different, given the way Piccolo had been defeated in the past, leading to Piccolo to not even abandon him for 6 months, which means the whole Gohan turning into a great ape and Piccolo learning about the same weakness doesn't even happen, and they train from the get-go. Gohan is not even abandoned for 6 months. This is also part because Piccolo, deep down, somewhat enjoys beating up the son of Goku. That is, until Gohan is able to corrupt him with that goodness like he does in canon. Meanwhile, in Otherworld, with more people in Otherworld, it would make Snake Way easier to deal with. But I don't see the speed getting much faster than if there were 2 people. Another question I did pose to you all, the group do in fact factor the time it would take to get back to Earth, and would be able to get back a day before Vegeta and Nappa do, thanks mostly to Master Roshi and Tien. I would say they would at least get 5 to 6 months worth of training, them all learning the Spirit Bomb and Kaioken, Goku pushing Kaioken to ×5, while the others top off at ×3 with the human physiology. They aren't quite able to push it quite as far as Goku could, but again, with more sparring partners with everyone on King Kai's planet, their gains are sure to be much higher, and we'll get into that now, since I did go over everyone's training. But before we get into this proper, I'm just letting you guys know, these numbers I give aren't just random. I did do some calculations on the back end, and it's like mostly based on the power growth rate, like in canon, and character motivations and stuff like that. But that other side note out of the way, let's get to the power levels. At the top is actually Goku, at a power level of 18,500, then Vegeta, 18,000, Yamcha, 13,587, Krillin, 12,426, Tien, 12,040, Roshi, 8,000, Piccolo, 5,608, Nappa, 4,000 plus, Hercule, 3,012, Tao, 2,980, Nam, 2,739, Jutsu 2400, King Chopper 2332, Put 2316, Gohan 1275, Jiren 1210, Videl 809, and Jalzi at 513. Now, out of everyone I've mentioned on this list, only one of them isn't actually going to fight. Most of you would probably think Gohan, right, with the way that I set him up in the last part. But don't forget he ran away from home to try help, and then got picked up by Piccolo, so he's definitely joining the fight at this point. But it's actually Yamcha and Launch's child, Jalzi, who isn't joining. Like I said in her training, she's more holding down the fort for Yamcha's dojo. Gotta keep that moneymaker alive, right? Well, Tien, being as serious as he is, did temporarily close his dojo as all of his top students are literally putting their lives on the line. If Jalzi weren't Yamcha's daughter, Tien might have taken issue with what Yamcha planned to keep his dojo open. So that's that. I just wanted everyone to know Jalzi's gonna be sidelined from basically this point on in this part, but she'll come in more in the following parts. So the day eventually arrives. Saiyans touch down on Earth, and like I mentioned earlier, Goku, Tien, Yamcha, Krillin, and Roshi had already returned from King Kai's planet a day before the attack. A side note real quick. When Goku returned from King Kai's planet, he'd easily be able to find Gohan for Chi-Chi, who would still be frantic because her son was still just missing. This led to Piccolo informing Goku about Gohan's latent potential in full, which I did mention earlier, like way earlier, a couple parts ago, that Goku did have an inkling, but now it's been confirmed, and Goku does think on that as he brings Gohan home to Chi-Chi. But with that out of the way, let's get back to pressing matters. Vegeta and Nappa show up in the same city as Kanon, even with Nappa obliterating it. Vegeta not chastising him this time because he doesn't actually know about the Dragon Balls. And it's not long before everyone is together awaiting their foes. Put here has a lot of the Kanon Yamcha persona, so he's a bit boastful here, loudly exclaiming that he'll take care of them himself if they keep them waiting too long. But as he finishes saying that, Vegeta and Nappa arrive. Vegeta even managing to hear what Put said, and makes a snarky joke at Put's expense. Vegeta clicks his scouter and reads Put's power, and I say in this timeline, they didn't even hide their power levels, since they feel confident with people like Goku, Yamcha, Krillin, Tien, and Roshi there. So Vegeta reads Put's full resting power, which would still be a little bit less than the power levels I listed earlier, but Vegeta scoffs the power he's reading from each one of them, except for Goku. Goku was resting his power, and then went to full power as Vegeta read Put's power originally, actually making Vegeta flinch. But that doesn't hold long, as Vegeta realizes Goku seemingly doesn't have his tail. This is obviously Goku actually deceiving his foe, since he actually does still have his tail. It's just tucked away in his gi. Vegeta looks to Nappa and basically relays that information, which is false information, and after that Vegeta creates a Power Ball and becomes a Great Ape alongside Nappa. But this is before the fight even actually starts. But an interesting side effect, being surprised by this, Gohan also looked at the Power Ball and transforms into a Great Ape. Piccolo never removed Gohan's tail, as he never left Gohan alone like in canon. He just trained day in, day out. And that does make Gohan's power skyrocket from 1,275 to 12,750, which is still only a fraction of Nappa's and Vegeta's power, and is actually weaker still than some of the main cast. But Gohan now has lost all self-control because Goku had yet to actually teach him control over the Great Ape form. This leads to Nappa and Vegeta not even attacking. They just see Gohan going crazy and decide to see how this plays out as their pre-fight entertainment. This makes our heroes on the defensive immediately. It's not long before Goku is able to bring Great Ape Gohan back to his senses, and Great Ape Gohan then launches himself at Nappa to begin the fight proper. Yamcha, Krillin, Tien, and Roshi using Kaioken ×3 to go in to assist Gohan. I believe puts most of them, if not all of them, at a power level that's above Gohan's. But just like canon, Vegeta is still just going to watch until Nappa either wins or loses. Goku takes a moment to get the attention of the rest of the warriors present and tasks them to try and remove the Great Ape tails. Then Goku joins the fray and pushes his Kaioken to ×3, which for Goku is a level he can maintain pretty easily. But for the humans, that's a level where they're pushing themselves to their limits. This for Goku pushes his power to 55,500, which I'm pretty sure you would all know is pretty significantly higher than Nappa's Great Ape form. Goku speeds into the fight against Nappa and actually does him like he does Raccoon, taking Nappa out with a powered and speedy elbow into Nappa's stomach. This leading to Goku telling Vegeta to leave. But Vegeta isn't phased too much as Vegeta now is getting ready to fight. Though, unlike canon, he doesn't throw Nappa into the air and obliterate him, he just ignores Nappa's defeat entirely, because he's too focused on the foe at hand. One, he's actually unsure if he can even beat, especially when Goku pokes his tail out of his gi and looks up at the Power Ball as he goes off to face off with Vegeta. This putting Goku's power to a power level of 185,000, above Vegeta's once more. This obviously does give Vegeta quite a bit of a shock, but he's not exactly the type to go down without a fight. And after a little bit of a back and forth, and some of Goku's friends nearly being killed by Vegeta's attacks, Goku decides it's no longer a time to be holding back, and even manages to use Kaioken in his Great Ape form, pushing it all the way to ×2, which is his limit in his Great Ape form, which I believe boosts his power all the way up to 370,000. Now, no matter how you slice it, Vegeta is not going to win that battle, but knowing Goku and his character, he would still let Vegeta live. And the only people who actually die in this arc is that one city of people that Nappa obliterated, and with the Dragon Balls they'd be able to revive those people easy, so basically no harm, no foul. And just like that, Nappa and Vegeta leave kinda like what Vegeta does in canon. This time the Spirit Bomb wasn't even needed, but that does lead to something interesting at the end of this. With Raditz, Vegeta and Nappa not knowing about the Dragon Balls at all, I don't really see why Frieza or Vegeta for that matter would even go to Namek. This also has Piccolo still believing he's a demon, an interesting side note. Though unfortunately for this arc, there wasn't much room I could use for some of the other characters, though that could also be part due to just having such a large cast to begin with. Though, with the peace that was ensured with this victory, the heroes can all go back to their daily lives. That is, until something else happens. And as we all know in the world of Dragon Ball, there is always a threat looming just around the corner. But also, what of Vegeta and Nappa? They both live here and leave defeated with their tails, since the Earthlings didn't end up being able to remove them in the fight. But what do you think they'd get up to after they leave Earth? Do you think they'd even come back? Especially with Vegeta's revenge thing with Frieza. Knowing another Saiyan like Goku is on Earth and as strong as he is, I feel like Vegeta might end up trying to recruit him in the future. But who knows? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. But that's about all I got time for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this part. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe with bell notifications on to stay up to date with my what ifs. And also leave your suggestions for possible future what ifs in the comments below. But with that out of the way, I've been the Dragon Ball What If Bro, and I will see you guys next time.